Pacific Island Forum leaders at their annual meeting in Cairns 2009 were concerned that Pacific countries were falling behind in their efforts to reach the Millennium Development Goals. They committed to pay more attention to the monitoring of MDGs and to strengthen country systems and institutions to better prioritize, allocate, deliver, and account for development resources to their own citizens and to development partners. Significantly, they agreed to open up their systems and institutions for review by peers within the Pacific.
Progress of the Pacific in achieving the Millennium Development Goals is mixed, perhaps uneven, with 2 countries on track to achieve all the MDGs. 5 countries are on track to achieve at least 3, perhaps more, of the goals, and a few will achieve only 2 or none of the MDGs by 2015.
The Millennium Development Goals is something that is guiding the development agendas for each individual country. And for Papua New Guinea, it has been challenging because of weaknesses that we have had in the government systems. Also, instability in governments. As a result, there was no consistency in policies, government policies. In terms of the Sustainable Development Goals, it must be flexible enough so that countries can adjust to their unique circumstances.
All 13 of the Forum Island countries which committed to the Forum Compact processes have completed peer reviews of country systems, and all have, with the assistance of development partners, completed some form of public financial management assessment and now have clear reform roadmaps to work with.
I think that the mistake one should never make is to carry on doing what you're doing without just reflecting upon it. And I think it is important to get people from within the region to do that, because we share the experience. A lot of our problems are very similar.
The good thing about peer review is the realistic aspect of it. I think that often has to be given some weight.
We were trying to do too many things. We have limited capacity. So what we're doing at the present moment is exactly what the peer review recommended, and that is to set up a unit which is going to be responsible for management, administration and monitoring our projects.
The actual implementation using the skills that we have is the responsibility of the public servants. And I consider our public servants virtually responsible for much of the improvements that we have made.
We've moved on from just the straight technical advisors doing almost everything in country. We have a cohort of often young, well-educated Pacific Islanders who can do this work. It's really important to find a way to harness that capacity.
This is the approach that would take us out of a dependence on TAs. I would really highly recommend this attachment and this approach to be replicated amongst other countries in the region who have undertaken the peer review process.
Public financial management is one of the key issues that was brought out of the peer review recommendations, and it's certainly something AusAid's been very keen to support.
We've made a commitment in the next few years to have one of the best, most robust finance management systems and planning systems in place.
Recognizing the important role of aid in the region, Pacific leaders called for more effective development partner assistance and annual development partner reporting and peer reviews.
17 development partners have reported in 1 or more years since 2010, with 7 reporting consistently. New Zealand and Australia have volunteered to be the first development partners to be peer reviewed. Overall, development partners are improving the alignment of their assistance with Pacific countries' national priorities and are engaging with more Pacific countries to provide budget support. Aid fragmentation remains a key challenge for some countries, with increasing mission and project numbers, although in other countries these are starting to decline.
Aid is, it's very important, but I think it's got to be very effective. And I think a lot of the onus is actually on the recipient countries.
Principles of good governance being respected by a developing country would ensure that the resources would be better used.
The peer reviews highlight that we all have mutual responsibility for achieving sustainable development in the Pacific. For our part, Australia needs to better tailor our assistance and try to minimise the administrative burden on countries.
With respect to New Zealand and Australia, we operate a fully harmonised aid program. So New Zealand delivers on behalf of AusAid. That reduces transaction costs. We think that the annual Donor Roundtable is an excellent initiative of the Cook Islands government. They're really one of the developing countries who are walking the talk and out in the forefront of donor coordination.
The best thing, I think, is for the RMI to be able to take control of the assistance, so they're not just waiting for us to say what's available, but so they say, we need help in these areas and these areas.
Leaders also called for more country and development partner attention and resources to infrastructure development.
Most Pacific countries have developed infrastructure investment strategies with the collective support of development partners through the Pacific Regional Infrastructure Facility.
We've seen a very strong momentum grow around not only coordination in design, but also increasingly coordination in delivery. We're jointly working with all PRIF partners to look at how their work is aligning to support the Kiribati Government Water and Sanitation Roadmap.
Importantly, our leaders acknowledged the role of non-state actors in development and agreed on a high-level dialogue with the private sector.
Annual high-level private sector and forum leaders dialogues have been held since 2010.
The government will need to provide a good investment climate for both local and foreign investors. The players in both sectors need to be serious about their responsibilities.
What I'm more interested in is the incentives that will be given to the private sectors to go into business. For the economy to grow, it's not only tax, but it includes long-term education, infrastructure.
So aid needs to be more innovative and better leverage other drivers of development such as private sector investment and domestic finance. We also need to continue to work with the Pacific to ensure investors better understand the great opportunities that are there.
Pacific countries are playing more significant roles and exerting stronger leadership and ownership of their national development agendas and are guiding development partners.